All right, I think we can go ahead and get started. So, thanks for joining us for the FY25 desk review orientation. So this is for providers who were selected for a desk review. If you weren't selected for a desk review, you don't have to attend this orientation. You're more than welcome to stay, but you do not have to attend. So I'm Theo Margulies. I'm one of the contract coordinators for PHL Pre-K. Helping me with this presentation is Joseph Bossler, Ken Perry, and Kristen Collins from our PHMC finance team. This presentation is being recorded, and the recording and the slides will be shared in the biweekly newsletter, so you'll have access to all of the links and everything that are in this PowerPoint. If you have any questions, as we go through the orientation, feel free to put them in the chat and we will be stopping for questions, as we go along. So the purpose of this orientation is to review the FY25 desk review expectations and deliverables outlined in the PHL Pre-K contract, to clarify documents that need to be submitted in the desk review, and to provide resources so you can get help now if needed. So here's an agenda for the orientation. So we're going to have an overview of the desk review process. Our finance team is going to go over the general ledger and the other supporting documentation we'll be requesting. Then we'll go over the actual report. We'll hear from the Spark Quality Support Center about the resources available, and then we'll go over what the next steps will be. So who receives a desk review? So PHMC conducts desk reviews on a 10% sample of providers receiving less than $300,000 in organizational receipt of PHL pre-K funds and providers with identified fiscal concerns. So what is a desk review? It reviews a general ledger and supporting documentation. It verifies that purchases and payments are in accordance with the PHL Pre-K contract and established laws and regulations, and it requests your accounting policy and procedures and other financial documents and reviews your internal controls. So here's an overview of the desk review process. And we'll talk through each step and provide more details on each step in the upcoming slides. So we notified providers who were selected for a desk review in July and requested your general ledger detailing PHL pre-K revenue and expenses for the reporting period. This should be pulled directly from your accounting software, and these are due August 29th. So after you submit your general ledger, our finance team will review it and select around 50 transactions that you'll need to submit supporting documentation for. We'll send you these transactions and a request to submit other fiscal documents, and these will be due 2 weeks after we request it. So after you submit all the supporting documentation, the finance team will review it and may follow up with additional questions. They will then draft your desk review report by the spring of 2026, and we will set up meetings with each provider to go through any findings. And if there are any findings, corrective action or additional fiscal monitoring may be required. So what documents will we be requesting? So your general ledger, your receipts or records for a select sample of transactions, your credit card and bank statements, check register, petty cash log, balance sheet, income statement, payroll records, proof of insurance, accounting policy and procedure, and conflict of interest statement. And so here's just a little bit more about the review. So in reviewing your general ledger, we're verifying that PHL pre-K expenses are clearly identified, and we'll be selecting a sample of transactions and requesting supporting documentation from you to check for correctness, accuracy, and propriety. We're verifying that the provider has the accurate and has the appropriate insurance and is up to date on taxes. I'm verifying procedures around expenditures, allocations, payroll, accounts payable, credit cards, petty cash, gift cards, accounting policy and procedures, and conflict of interest. So now I'm going to turn it over to finance and they're going to go over the general ledger.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Ken Perry, which you may or may not see in the screen. Let's talk about what the general ledger is. The general ledger is a record of all financial transactions in a given period. In this case, it's going to be for the fiscal year that ended 2025, June 30, 2025. Your GL can be accessed using your accounting software or provided by your accountant. We seriously request that it be in an Excel electronic format that allows us to be able to manipulate data quickly and analyze it. Accounts should be consistent. Um, there's a whole chart of accounts, and if we would expect them to be used and adequately pulled together. Transactions should include the vendor, whoever the transaction is with, the date, a complete and accurate description of the transaction, and the amount of that transaction. One of the things about this is, and this each organization has their own way of handling it. One of the big things is if you have multiple streams of income, uh, we would hope that you can identify specifically which transactions belong to Philly Pre-K. Can we see the next slide, please? Um, we just felt, or we found that it can be confusing for some people on how to get their general ledger, and so we just wanted to give you the directions. If you're using Excel, or I'm sorry, if you're using QuickBooks, on how to get it out of QuickBooks for us. Once you're inside QuickBooks, from the left navigation bar, click on Reports, then type in General Ledger in the search field at the upper right hand, this report, click, and export it and choose the export to Excel, and then hit OK. It's not a very difficult process, but it has been confusing in the past, so step-by-steps help. Next, please. What expenses are allowed? So, I'm sorry, are not allowed. You're not allowed to use pre-K's funds to purchase land or order new construction. You're not allowed to lease or purchase vehicles. You're not allowed to purchase any secondhand items, including but not limited to those from individuals or yard sales. Uh, you'll hear a lot about gift cards during the review. They are prohibited. You're not allowed to use them in the program. Payment towards staff entertainment, including amusement, diversion, these are just generally not allowed. I always laugh at this one. You're not allowed to purchase alcohol. I can't imagine anybody doing that, but and the cost of membership to civic community and social organizations is also prohibited. Next, please.
All right, so this is the form for you to submit your general ledger. So I'm going to pull it up so that we can see what the form looks like. So this is the form. It was linked in the email that you all received when you were notified that you were selected for a desk review. And so when you click the link, it will take you to the form right here. And so the instructions are just saying to please complete the form to submit your general ledger. If you have a combined general ledger that includes other programs, please clearly mark or allocate those programs as separate from PHL Pre-K and be sure to name the file to clearly identify the site location. And so you will select your legal entity from a drop-down, You'll put in your contact information, so your first and last name, your email address. We ask what accounting system you use. So FreshBooks, QuickBooks, Wave, Excel, none, or if you use a different accounting system, you can select other and then just type in whatever accounting system you do use. Then we ask if your general ledger was generated from your accounting system. So you can select either yes or no. And then we ask if your general ledger only includes PHL pre-K expenses. So you'll say, yes, it only has PHL pre-K expenses. No, it has organizational wide PHL pre-K expenses or other. And then if you select other, you can type in whatever that other option is. Then we ask, do you segregate PHL pre-K expenses? And if you say yes, we ask you to explain how you segregate PHL pre-K expenses. Then you'll upload your PHL Pre-K General Ledger, and once again, we're requesting that that's in Excel. Then you'll sign over here, and then you'll submit it. And so next, we're going into supporting documentation. And so after you submit your general ledger, PHMC Finance will select a sample of transactions, and PHL Pre-K will email you requesting that you submit transaction supporting documentation and other financial documents. And the link to the submission form is here. And when you receive that email requesting the supporting documentation, you will also receive a link to the form. And so I will go over that form now as well. And so this is the supporting documentation submission form. And so we're going to go over each of the documents that we're requesting in more detail after this. So you will put your legal entity from a drop down, your contact information, your first and last name, your email address. Then we ask which type of provider you are, so family or a center and a group provider. And there's slightly different questions in the form based on which you choose. And so I'll go over those differences after I go through the form. There's just, if you're a family provider, there's some slightly different questions. So then you'll upload the supporting documentation for your general ledger transaction, so the sample selections. And there's some help text under the supporting documentation too, just saying what should be in each upload as well. So for the transactions, you will select if you're uploading supporting documentation for all the transactions, for some of the transactions, or if you're not able to upload supporting documentation for any of the transactions. If you say some or that you're not able to upload supporting documentation for any of the transactions, this memo field will populate. And so if you can't locate invoices or receipts for some of the transactions, we ask that you attach a memo stating the specific transaction and the reasoning. So you'll upload that here. Then it goes into bank reconciliation. So you'll upload your bank reconciliation, and there's links under here that you can click that are videos of how to reconcile your accounts, both in QuickBook and in Wave. Then we ask if you use credit cards, and if you say yes, then we ask who handles all credit card expendables, and we ask you to upload your credit card reconciliation. If you don't use credit cards, you say no, then you'll just move on to the next question. Then we ask if you use checks. If you do use checks, we ask who handles all check expendables, and we ask for your check register. Then we ask if you use petty cash. If you do use petty cash, we ask for you to upload your petty cash log. We ask where is on-site petty cash held and who handles it. Next is your income or profit and loss statement. And so you'll upload that here, and there's a link, right? There's links right here to videos on how to run an income statement in QuickBooks and also in Wave. Then is your balance sheet, and there's links right here as well on how to run a balance sheet in QuickBooks and in Wave. Next, we ask if all of your PHL pre-K staff are W-2 employees. So you'll say yes or no. And if you say no, then we just ask you to list the employees' first and last names who are 1099 employees.
And I just want to say if they are 1099 employees, we will be asking you to explain why they are 1099 employees.
Then we ask if you have a PA form UC2/2A. And if you say yes, then we ask you to upload it. And if you no, then you don't have to upload it. And then not applicable, we just ask why it's not applicable to your organization. And so there's a text box that populates for you to write in. Next, we ask if you have a tax form 941. And if you say yes, then you can upload it right here. Next, we'll ask for the most recent tax filing that you have available. And then we ask if you use a payroll system. So if you do use a payroll system, we ask for your payroll summary sheet and register. And if you don't use a payroll system, then we ask for your alternative payroll documents. So we're just asking for proof of payment and documentation showing that appropriate taxes were withheld. Next is your workman compensation policy. So you will upload a copy of your current workman compensation policy. If you are a sole proprietor with no employees, you do not need to upload this policy. Next, you'll upload certificates of insurance. Then we ask if you purchased and distributed any gift cards through the reporting period. And if you say yes, then we ask for a list of all the gift cards, which program paid for the gift cards, where they're kept, who is involved in processing, using, reconciling, and paying for the gift cards, and once dispersed, do you keep a log of recipient sign-off? The next question is, do you have any employees who are no longer at your program during that reporting period? If you say yes, then we just ask for a list of employees. Please ensure that that list has the effective date of hire and termination. So next we'll ask about your accounting policy and procedure. And so we ask if you have one, and if you say yes, then you'll be able to upload your accounting policy and procedure. And there's some help text underneath that just says what that accounting policy and procedure should include. Next, we ask about the conflict of interest policy. If you have one, then you will upload it right here. And again, there's some help text underneath saying what it should include. The last question is asking if you pay PHL pre-K staff according to the 21st century minimum wage standard. And then as a reminder, in FY25, it was $16.35 per hour. So you'll say, yes, I pay PHL pre-K staff according to the 21st century minimum wage standard. I submitted a waiver to the city and it was approved. And then we're asking for the waiver and approval from the city. I submitted a waiver to the city and it was not approved. Then we're asking for the waiver and the denial letter from the city, or it does not apply to my organization because I have less than 5 employees in my legal entity. And then we ask you to state the number of employees you have in your legal entity. Then we ask if you would like to upload any other documentation. So if there's anything else you would like to submit, then you can do so right here. You can upload as many documents as you want right here. Then you'll sign it and you will submit it. You can also, all the way at the bottom, there's a save button. So if you start it, but you don't have all the documents you want to submit, you can start uploading things, save it. It will email you a link and you can come back to it and upload things, slowly at a time. If you are a family provider, for the conflict of interest policy, so if you are a family provider and you select family, for which type of provider are you? For the conflict of interest policy, if you do not have a conflict of interest policy, we ask you who handles your finances. So if it's just yourself, if you are a sole proprietor, you'll be able to sign off that there's only one person who handles all finances, and then you can just initial that there's no conflict of interest at your organization. If you have multiple, if you're a family provider and multiple people handle your finances, then we ask for the name and job titles of the people at your organization who handle the finances. So you'll just put their first and last name and their job title, and you can add additional staff. And then if it's outside contractors, then you can just select outside contractors. And so that is the supporting documentation form. And now we're going to go into the supporting documentation in some more detail. And I will hand it back over to our finance team.
I think this is Joseph, right?
That is right. So, the whole purpose of these audits are to uh, not only trace back whether the transactions happened, but also to ensure that the practices are good uh, in keeping those documents. These supporting documents are what drives the entire conclusion around an audit. Um, Keeping receipts is always in your best interest, and you don't have to physically keep them. You can, of course, take pictures of them. I think I speak for everyone involved when I say I don't think anyone wants to process 2,000 invoices or 2,000 receipts, whether you're sending them to us or we're processing them. We just want JPEGs. um, but they should be itemized. Receipts should have the who, the what, the when, and the why to trace back, I guess, how the transaction happened, what it was for, who was involved, all of that good stuff. Yes, of course, save everything is the important part. And as I said, all documents need the vendor, the amount, the date, the itemization. A receipt or an invoice are the two most common forms of documentation. There could be other forms that would be accepted. I have not been privy to those. I'm sure if there are questions, uh, we could answer that for you, but they do need to include those details. Uh, Otherwise, we can't really accept them.
I just want to add on, you are required per your contract to keep all receipts related to the program for a period of 5 years. So this becomes a bit of a big deal as far as complying with the contract. Sorry to interrupt, Joseph.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, if I'm missing anything, please put that on. Um, as you can see on the left with this Walmart receipt, it is very nicely itemized. It shows what the items are, how much they cost, what the total cost was, and what the payment method was, and the location. It provides every detail we need. A description and a date on something like a Zelle receipt or a Venmo description are also acceptable. A bank statement or a credit card is not acceptable. You might think it might be because it's a financial institution, but a lot of the time, these institutions do not have all the requisite information for us to appropriately audit them. As we can see here, this one on the left has zero itemization, despite there being 10 items in the subtotal. That's sort of unacceptable. Not sort of unacceptable. It is unacceptable. And we need to know what those items are, what they are for, and really just more information. And the one on the right shows there's really not much description. There's who it goes to, but we don't know what it is for.
All
Is there
right.
some? Good.
Yep. Thanks,
But
Joe. All right. My name's Kristen Collins. I'm one of the accountants here, and I'll be doing the review. So we just want to go over some more of the documentation that we're going to be requesting. As far as the credit card and bank reconciliations, these should be the most simple things to get. As long as you are recording and keeping your GL up to date, then this should be easy peasy when you go to get it to us. And of course, my baby just woke up from his nap. So basically, for just in layman's terms, bank recs are kind of bank and credit card recs, if you use credit cards, are kind of like a two component item. So what we usually recommend, if you use QuickBooks, if you use Wave or any of the other accounting software, we suggest linking your bank account into that software. It's very easy to set up. Anytime you have a transaction, it'll show up when you go into QuickBooks. It'll say, you know, you spent $100 at Walmart. We think that this was probably for school supplies. Do you want it to go to that account? And you just hit match. It's very easy. And that's what a bank reconciliation is. So when you go to pull the report, we'll go to that in the next slide. But basically, you should be doing this on a monthly basis. Any account, we ask that you keep the PHL pre-K expenses separate. We understand that some expenses are going to be combined. Like, we don't expect you to go make 2 separate orders when you do things, one for PHL pre-K classes. If you have more other students other than PHL pre-K, we don't ask necessarily that you do 2 separate orders, but say you have 10 students, 5 are PHL pre-K, 5 are not, you would just go and make that expense 50%. So 50% would go to PHL pre-K. And we just ask that when we ask for these reconciliations, you show us. You just tell us, like, this is how I made this calculation. This expense was $100 for school supplies. 50% went to PHL pre-K, so $50. As long as we see that calculation, and it makes sense, you can support it in some way, that's enough for us.
I, can I interrupt there?
Of course.
It's probably a good practice when you're reconciling your bank rec or your credit card rec to actually annotate what they on the actually on your statement. Half of this went to pre-K, half of this went to whoever your other streams of income are. That way, when you go to pull it out later, it's like it's already there. You don't have to go back, research it, do it at the beginning, and it's over and done. Sorry to interrupt, Kristen.
Nope, you're all good. So right, exactly. So it's good to, like, keep on top of it. And I think, with the way the accounting software is, you could let it go for a couple of months, but then when you go to actually reconcile, you're like, hey, what was that expense for? Like, back in August. If you're like me at all, you're gonna have no idea. So it's best, in my opinion, to reconcile your accounts every single month. And we can go ahead to the next slide. We did include, these are instructions. If you were to go into the slides when we send them to you, if you right click, it'll take you to a YouTube video on how to reconcile the accounts, and then how to, send us it'll kind of look like I said, it links to your bank statements. So it's basically kind of a marriage of your bank statement and your GL. It's basically like, these are all the expenses that are showing up, hitting your credit card. Where does this transaction go, essentially, is what a reconciliation is. So this will walk you through those steps. And if you use a different accounting software, we will figure out how to get that to you. If you use an accountant, this is what you pay your accountant for. If they can't get this for you, you need to get a new accountant, basically. So yes, so this should be the easiest thing that you have to submit to us. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask, and we can move on. All right, check register also should be very simple. I rarely write checks. Few people do, but if you do use checks for rent, for different things, we just ask for the old school methods, fine. However you want to do it, we ask for a log, basically. The most important part about a check register is keeping an eye on what has been cashed, like what has cleared in your bank. Again, this is like old school, back when like you used to like write checks for everything, and it's like all of a sudden they would all hit at once, and all of a sudden your bank account just went like boop. So it just, make a note of the check number, the amount it was for, who it was for, and then keep an eye on your bank account, making like when it was cashed, it was cleared on this day. And any outstanding checks, like if they've been outstanding for more than 90 days, I would reach out obviously to whoever you wrote the check for and be like, hey, like, did you receive this check? You know, what's going on? So that's really what we ask for. Also, if there's any voided checks, if that check did get lost in the mail, just, you know, something saying, or if you know, made a mistake writing out the check, just something saying that that check number was voided, just so if we see it goes from like check 132 to 135, we need to know like what exactly happened to those three checks. So that's pretty much check register. Again, not everybody uses it. It's very simple. We just need a log, preferably again in a Word doc, Excel. I suggest Excel for everything because it's easy to update. Not used in pay bills. Oh, so if you pay bills electronically, and let me see, there was two questions. If you pay bills electronically, then it'll just show up in your statement. Like that kind of just goes back to what we were talking about before. That's where you would just, we suggest again, linking it to your QuickBooks, to your accounting software, and it'll show up direct, like right in there. It'll say, you know, $22 spent at Target. And you just need to go in and say what that expense was for. And it's as simple as that. If you don't use, if you're using Excel, then it is more labor intensive where you have to go in. If again, we recommend using an Excel spreadsheet, just making sure you're putting in the description, what it was for. Again, if there's any kind of, if allocation involved, if it wasn't all going to PHL pre-K, that's why we really do recommend using an accounting software. I mean, they're not expensive and they save so much time. They really do.
One of the big things here is we're trying to ensure that there's integrity on your cash. This is how you ensure that nobody's going in and taking money out of your checking account. You're not losing money. That everything that you get does get deposited. Every check that you wrote was the check that you wanted to have written. So it is a big deal.
Okay. And I do see your question, Irene. We'll get to that in just a moment. So again, petty cash log, not many people use, you know, cash, and we suggest really keeping it to a minimum. If you are, we know some things are cash only still in this day. But if you are, again, it should just be for like little things, like you need to go and get a book of stamps or something to mail out state, you know, things like that. So you shouldn't be using cash to pay any kind of big bills. It should just be like occasional small things. But what we ask is the employee that physically handled the cash, who actually like went to the store or who gave it to, if you had somebody come and teach a class or something, who physically gave the money. We need a receipt. We need the date. The receipt in this is the most important part. So the receipt should contain all of this information, but really that's what we need. So anytime that there's cash used, we need all of this information. And again, at the end, we need to know, I mean, the way that I've always done like petty cash, like if you have like a petty cash drawer or a lockbox, is keep like $100 in it. Always keep it like every like 2 weeks, every month, like set up a time where you go, you replenish it, you check it, and you know, you're just on top. The log should match. So whatever the log says, like $12 is missing. If it's $100, it should have $88 in it. So again, just keeping on top of it, making sure everything's documented. And move on. All right, financial statements, both very easy to pull if you have accounting software. We ask for a balance sheet and an income statement or a profit and loss. We have on the next slide, if you want to go in on how to pull these from QuickBooks or Wave, here you just again right click, it'll show you exactly how to go and pull them up. It should take you, if as long as you're on top of everything, it should take you 1 minute. That's it. If you use a different software, reach out to us. If you're not unsure how to pull it up, we'll figure it out. Again, if you're not sure, just communicate with us as early in this process as possible. I think is the best advice that I can give, is to
And,
communicate
and
as
if,
early. Don't wait until like the day before things are due and then reach out to us. But we're here to help. So these are pretty self-explanatory. If you're not sure what a balance sheet or an income statement are, you don't really need to. Balance sheets, though, are like assets, liabilities, and then income statements are your expenses and your revenue. So
and if you're using an accountant, this is what you're paying them for. They should be
exactly.
able
So
to
yeah, if you
generate
don't know
this
what
with
these
no
things are,
trouble.
you don't need to. But if you want to know, that is what they are for. So all right, so payroll records, and this we'll get to Irene's question. So we ask for pay records from 2 separate pay periods. We need the employee's name, the pay period, the rate, the taxes that were withheld, their W-2 employees, and then any other state mandated withholdings. And then, so an important part is if you have employees that aren't part of the PHL pre-K program, we don't need to see those. So if you can't separate them, if like you use ADP and it's just one big, then just highlight, circle, just any way that you can identify which ones are PHL pre-K. If a particular teacher, that here's for Irene, if you say a teacher has like 2 separate roles, maybe they do PHL pre-K, but they also do like an aftercare and they're receiving 2 separate rates. Yes, please identify the PHL pre-K portion of the hours that they worked related to PHL pre-K. We do need to see that. So please do separate those. And then all PHL pre-K staff must be W-2 employees. So if that is something that you haven't been doing, if it's been as 1099, obviously it's too late to change what's occurred in the past, but it is something that we are going to have to rectify in the future. So that is, a bridge that we will cross if that's been the case. If it has been the case, again, reach out to us sooner rather than later. And we can help, guide you towards next steps. All right, owner's draw. So if you do own your own business, congratulations. But so if you haven't been paying yourself on a regular basis, say, you just take money as, your revenue is higher, you feel like you can like pool a little more, if that's how you have been compensating yourself, we just need to see that on the balance. Well, we need to see it on the balance sheet. And then we also need to see on your tax return from the previous year or your most recent year, just to show that you have been reporting your income regularly and that you've been paying your taxes. So that's pretty much what we mean by an owner's draw. If that does apply to you, and if you have any more specific questions, you can definitely reach out to us. But that's what we ask, just to show like how you have been compensating yourself as the owner of your business. All right, proof of insurance. We ask for workers' compensation, general liability, professional insurance, and then auto insurance if necessary.
All of this should come straight from your insurance agent. They can give you a certificate, and that should take care of everything. I think this one's mine, isn't it?
Yep.
Okay. Accounting policies and procedures. How you guys handle your accounting stuff should be codified, written up into, so that anybody coming along can understand exactly how you handle your accounting business. Normally that would be a memo or collection of memos that would explain it. It also should point out who does what. So if one person is in charge of of opening all the checks, and another person is in charge um, of booking that in the general ledger. You want to make sure that that procedure is properly documented. You want to ideally you want to be able to say uh, when we buy things via uh, electronic uh, uh, what do I think electronic transfers, you actually just go ahead and say, this has to be approved by, by the owner or by a supervisor or by the accounting person. And that's what we're looking for, to make sure that we can see that there are adequate controls to ensure that things get to the general ledger properly, and that all of the processes are done and approved and assets are adequately protected. Next, please. Conflict of interest statements. You- The the big rule is you don't want the same person writing the check that reconciles the account, the bank account. If you're a small organization, that becomes downright impossible. But we actually um, kind of referred to this earlier. What we'll be looking for is a statement from a smaller organization. By smaller, I'm usually thinking 3 people or less, and saying, you know, we our staff is too small to ensure adequate um, segregation of duties. The other thing is there should be some sort of a statement that says that nobody is, um, that I'll leave it alone. I'll leave it from there. We'll directly talk to it, because I know I'm about to screw up and have you more confused than you probably already are. But we will be sending out some samples of conflict of interest statements. Next, Kristen, this is your baby.
Yes. Okay, so as far as the 21st century minimum wage requirement, so just to clarify, Philadelphia has its own minimum wage that is greater than the Pennsylvania minimum wage. For FY25, it was 16.35 an hour. I did just have to check and clarify. So this applies only if you have more than 5 employees. So 5 or fewer, this does not apply to you. I think it said less than 5 on an earlier thing. So clarification, 5 or fewer, this does not apply to you. This is if you have more than 5 employees. And so the minimum wage is 16.35 an hour. And again, that is a floor. That's not a ceiling. That is, it that is the base. And we all know teachers work very hard. So if you pay your employees more than that, then like cheers to you. But we also understand that how things are these days. So anyway, so we ask that you adhere. It is part of the contract that you adhere to this minimum wage standard. Again, we do ask for your payroll records, so we will be going through and verifying that all PHL pre-K employees have met this hourly wage requirement. If you have experienced economic hardship this year, though, then the recourse that you had at the time was to apply for a waiver with the city, which is, from what I understand, not a complicated process, but it was something that should have been started before we had gotten to this stage. So again, if this is just, I guess, for your information of the requirements for you as an employer, what we ask your employees to be paid per hour, who it applies to. If you haven't been like following this minimum wage requirement up to this point and you think that it's impossible, you do need a waiver, we can give you the information to apply for this waiver. But again, at this process, if you haven't already gone through and had the waiver approved, you know, it's a little late in the game to be getting to this point, but definitely reach out. We'll help you. We'll give you the information that you need. But just so you know, if you have more than 5 employees, the minimum wage requirement in the city is $16.35 an hour.
And Kristen, just a clarification point, it's more than 5 across your legal entity as well.
Oh, right. I'm sorry. Across your legal entity. So if
Mhm.
you have separate locations, then yes, that is all inclusive.
All right, so now we're going to go over next steps after your submission. So after you submit all of your documentation, our finance team may contact you if they have questions. Please respond within the time frame requested, even if that's to say that you don't have the documents or you need additional time. As we previously stated, communication throughout this process is key. And so, yeah, if you need any help with anything, please, 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 we really do want to help you. So just, constant communication will be great. After our finance team does review all of your documents, you will receive a desk review report detailing findings and next steps. Next steps may include corrective action, additional fiscal monitoring, and/or a referral to the Spark Quality Support Center. And so now I'm going to hand it over to the Spark Quality Support Center, and they're going to tell you about some of the resources that they have.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Tanny Shy Campbell, and I am the business specialist for Spark QSC. And my role is to provide content, professional development, and technical assistance around program management as it relates to fiscal, human resources, risk management, anything related to operating a child care program. As it relates to the desk review specifically, we have created resources that's geared to desk review providers that are chosen for desk reviews. And the resources are on our Spark website in the Knowledge Center. There has been some updates with some of the resources that has not made it to the Knowledge Center, which will be hopefully added to the Knowledge Center within the next couple weeks. These resources is a slew of resources. We have resources on allocation. I heard Ken and Kristen speak about allocating, meaning allocating how you your costs. And so determining for if you have blended funding and how if you have 20 children that's in your program, 8 of them is PHL pre-K, the other 12 is subsidy or private pay, how do you allocate your costs? And so we have a webinar that we offer that details how to allocate your costs and the different allocation methods. And so that is also, we offer that webinar throughout the year. When desk reviews are due, we tend to offer PDs that's related to desk reviews more frequently. So you have the opportunity to attend them rather in the morning or in the evening time, and you will find those PD availability on our Spark PD calendar. Also, the accounting policy and procedure is what was mentioned that you have to also submit, and we have had a lot of providers needing support with that. There was some templates that I was told that I had added that was geared to nonprofits, so I've updated that. So now it's now labeled for if you are a family child care provider, a center provider, and as well as a nonprofit. Some samples on those policies. Also, we have just a slew of information. We have, as it relates to the general ledger, how to create a record keeping system. It's just a lot of, I couldn't get all of the resources on this PowerPoint slide. So please visit our Spark website to retrieve this information, as well as connect with your coach if you need technical assistance. I can support you with certain areas, not necessarily accounting stuff, and providing services on accounting and bookkeeping, but helping you to set up your systems. And if we cannot provide support, we can refer you out to other vendors and other resources. And so, but for the most part, we have been able to successfully support providers in preparing and meeting their deliverables as it relates to the desk review. And so if you need technical assistance, please contact your coach, and they will then connect you with me, and I will support you to my best of ability. And so that's pretty much it for me. And we also have SCORE, and some webinars on how to work with your QuickBooks, and some tutorials as well that that can add to what was provided from PHMC. That's it.
Thanks, Tanny Shy.
You're welcome.
And so the links to all of these resources are directly in the PowerPoint. So once we send this out in the biweekly newsletter, you can click directly on the links and it will take you directly to the resources. All right, so now that's the end of the orientation. So now we will take a break and see if anyone has any outstanding questions.
Yes, how you doing? My name is Celine Wilson, and I have a question about the minimum wage rate and the actual pay for PHL PK per student. I guess my question was the allocation per student taken in consideration when you guys put the plan together to mandate a $16 an hour minimum wage fee?
So just to clarify, we didn't mandate any. It's the city of Philadelphia has mandated it. So it's a little bit out of our hands. I'm not sure if anybody else wants to add, but just to be clear, we didn't make the minimum wage. The city of Philadelphia.
And I think it's for any subcontractor that contracts with the city is required to adhere to this.
And I believe it's a clause in the contract.
I mean, I understand it's a clause in the contract, Mr. Perry. It doesn't mean it's fair, just means it's in the contract, right? so I'm not, you know what I mean? So I hear that part. That's just a question across the board. Doesn't mean it's fair, just means it's in the contract.
And while I sympathize with your position, that is, what's the line? And I hate to say it this way, but it's out of our hands. We're tasked with compliance, and I think that's one of the reasons why you're allowed to apply for waivers and the like.
Understood. That's just a question. Thank you so much.
I appreciate your position. Anybody else? Where'd Theo go?
I'm here. I'm just waiting to see if anyone has any questions. I don't see any more questions in the chat.
I didn't put it
Okay.
in.
No, go ahead.
I'm an organization that's heavy on credit cards, American Express. Like I do 80% of my shopping with American Express, different cards. So I have to find every receipt for every purchase that's on the American Express cards.
Yes.
you're saying? Or do I
Yes.
wait for you guys to say, like, I'm confused with that. Am I waiting for you guys to get back to me and say, I need to see these 50 transactions, or should I be looking for these all of my transactions right now for the ledger? Because I have an accountant and a bookkeeper. So I'm just a little confused with what you guys are saying in regards to that.
It would seem to me that your normal process would be that you would be collecting that kind of information anyway. So
Yes,
may I finish?
go ahead.
Um, when our the transactions we want to review, we would expect that all you have to do then is go to your files, pull out the supporting documentation, and send that to us.
Okay, that's what I meant. Okay, thank you.
I love that name, Kim Stone.
Does anyone else have any other questions?
Can we send some of the info requests? Um, I'm not sure I understand what Rafael
The
Caldaz.
reason why we wait to give you the second submission form with all the supporting documentation is because we haven't selected the transactions yet. So, and that's a part of that submission form. So if you do want it, Raphael, we can send it to you. Just know that you have to wait until that second email comes. You send your general ledger in, our finance team picks the transactions, and then you can upload all that supporting documentation with it. But we can definitely send it to you.
Yes, yeah, we can definitely send you the link now if you want to start adding some of the documents to the form.
Yeah, earlier the better. If you want to send that stuff now, Raphael, by all means.
This is going to keep Kristen busy while I'm away.
Yeah, bored over here.
All right. If no one has any other questions, so this is the okay, so this is the PHL Pre-K email address. So if you have any questions at any point, please email us. We'll be happy to answer any of your questions, to give clarification on anything that you need. So yeah, thanks for joining us. And let's see if there's a question. All right. Yeah, so thanks for joining us, and yeah, please reach out to us if you have any other questions.